Can you picture the thrill of slipping on a pair of platform shoes, suddenly seeing the world from a few thrilling inches higher? The unmistakable clack of wooden soles on disco dance floors, the vinyl gleaming under colored lights, and that distinct new shoe scent. Platform shoes in the 1970s weren't just a fashion statement, they were a rite of passage. Everyone from pop stars to neighborhood teens strutted down sidewalks, their feet clad in bold patterns and impossible heights, daring to stand out in a world that was anything but ordinary. These shoes captured the spirit of the era, bold, unafraid, and a little rebellious. Wearing them felt like joining a movement, echoing the bass lines of Saturday Night Fever and the freedom of a night out with friends. Do you still remember the slightly wobbly sensation, or the pride in looking down at your dramatic new kicks? Platform shoes were more than an accessory, they defined a generation's steps. So as we take a step back into this iconic trend, what stories will you remember about your favorite pair? Let's dust off those memories and relive the height of 70s style together. The story of platform shoes in the 1970s truly begins with the shifting mood at the tail end of the 1960s, when society was already bustling with change. Young Americans were searching for new ways to express identity and liberation, and fashion was at the very heart of this movement. But you might be surprised to know that the concept of platform footwear stretches back centuries before the 1970s. Ancient Greeks wore platform sandals known as kothorni on stage to help actors stand tall and be seen, and centuries later courtesans in 15th century Venice strutted the canals in chopines, massive, towering shoes that signaled social standing and even helped keep hems out of the mud. Still, none of these could quite compare to the cultural whirlwind that would sweep through the United States once platforms re-emerged in the late 1960s, ready to take on a whole new life. As the 1960s drew to a close, fashion was growing louder, and people were ready to leave behind the subdued browns and tailored lines of the post-war years. Rock music, vibrant print patterns, and counterculture all pushed boundaries, and young people were hungry for new forms of self-expression. Enter the platform shoe, which at first arrived quietly, popping up in specialty boutiques in places like London's Carnaby Street before making a splash in the US. But what made Americans reach for that extra inch so eagerly? Perhaps it was the collective need for visibility, not just physically, but socially and artistically as well. The world was growing more crowded and more competitive, and anything that could help a person stand out, even if only by a few inches, had enormous appeal. Here's an interesting twist. In the middle and late 1960s, men were as likely as women to experiment with dramatic footwear. The Beatles, for example, famously adopted Cuban-heeled boots, predecessors to the platform phenomenon, which quickly became an object of desire for young fans. By 1969, iconic designers like Salvatore Ferragamo and Vivienne Westwood were taking risks with stack-soled styles, playing with bizarre shapes and psychedelic colors. There was something distinctly democratic about platforms. They weren't reserved for the elite. You could find a pair at the local department store, or push the boundaries with a custom pair at a boutique. Did you ever hunt for your first pair in a mall, or feel the excitement of unwrapping your own set at home? By the dawn of the 1970s, it was clear that platform shoes were riding the crest of a bigger wave, one that brought not only bolder clothes and hairstyles, but also a profound shift in attitudes. The sexual revolution, the rise of disco, and the growing influence of African-American, Latin, and LGBTQ creators all played a part in shaping the era's look. Interestingly, platforms gained traction in part because they crossed lines. They could be masculine or feminine, formal or wild, sophisticated or just plain fun. It wasn't unusual to see both men and women stepping out in flamboyantly heeled boots and sandals. And if you pause to think about it, platform shoes dropped into a time when America was literally and figuratively on the move. The highways built in the previous decades were now packed with cars, and new clubs were opening across the country, where young people danced the night away to the electric pulse of Donna Summer or the Jackson 5. Did those shoes make you feel like you could glide, even as you tried to avoid a misstep on a slippery
Linoleum floor?
You might not believe this, but before the explosive popularity of platforms in the early 70s, there were skeptics in the fashion press. Some predicted the fad would be short-lived, even dangerous, and with good reason, considering early platform soles could reach heights of 4 or 5 inches. More than a few folks found themselves wobbly, if not downright unsteady. But the thrill far outweighed the risk for most, especially as celebrities began sporting platforms on late-night television or strutting out of limousines into clubs. Curiously, there's another reason why platforms ignited imaginations. They made everyone a little larger than life. With every added inch, platform shoes allowed the wearer to feel transformed, suddenly statuesque, confident, and impossible to ignore. In an era obsessed with individualism and new forms of glamour, this was pure magic. Did you ever get caught admiring your reflection, marveling at how those shoes seemed to change not only your
Height, but your entire attitude?
By the 1971 and 1972, platforms were more than just a trend. They were everywhere, from TV variety shows to wedding aisles. Magazine advertisements flashed pictures of couples in matching suede platforms, and school hallways echoed with the unique clomp of wooden soles. Even major shoe companies got in on the act, modifying familiar styles, from loafers to sneakers, to incorporate the all-important bulked-up sole. Yet the journey was only beginning. Fashion was about to shift again, moving from a psychedelic, hippie-inspired look to one defined by the gleam and flash of discotheques, where platforms would rise to dizzying new heights, sometimes literally. Soon the shoes would become inseparable from the era's iconic music and personalities, and just wearing a pair could feel like your own private rebellion. What happened next would not only shape the look of the 70s, but leave stamps on design, culture, and even the ways people walked and danced for years to come. But that's not all, because once platform shoes gained a foothold, ingenuity and imagination took center stage. The next chapter in the story is about technological advances, bold new materials, and all the creative ways designers pushed the boundaries of footwear, leading, of course, to some very unpredictable results. As we step back from our journey through the rise and legacy of platform shoes in the 1970s, it's amazing to remember how something as simple as footwear could make such a bold statement in our lives. We've traced their roots from the echoes of ancient history to their dramatic explosion on the streets and dance floors of America, exploring how platforms invited everyone, young or old, bold or shy, to stand just a little taller and shine a little brighter. For many, they weren't just another pair of shoes. They were an emblem of individuality, a passport to confidence, and a ticket to join the infectious energy of the decade. The vibrant patterns, the wild materials, and the delightful squeak or solid clack on every step all became signatures of an age that didn't just worship cool, but embraced it with open arms and elevated heels. Whether you were grooving under the spinning lights of a disco, heading to a concert with friends, or just strutting down Main Street, platform shoes brought a certain magic, making ordinary days feel extraordinary and turning everyday folks into stars of their own stories. But if we look deeper, platform shoes mirror more than just fads or physical height. They reflect the very spirit of the 1970s, a bold desire to break the mold and express ourselves without apology. They remind us of all the times we took a risk, tried something new, and dared to draw a little extra attention. In a world quickly changing where music got louder, colors got brighter, and voices of every background swelled in unison, platforms helped us claim our space. They taught us that fashion could be fun, liberating, even a little rebellious, and that sometimes all it takes is a change in perspective, a few inches up, a pop of color beneath our feet, to see the world and ourselves in an entirely new light. These shoes united generations in the thrill of self-expression, turning every sidewalk and dance floor into a stage. So what memories come rushing back when you think about your first pair, or the pair you always wanted? Was there a favorite song that made those shoes feel lighter, or a particular outfit that just didn't feel complete without them? Did you ever have to borrow a steady arm to make it down the stairs, laughing all the way, or cherish the satisfying clatter as you walked into a room, ready to be noticed? We'd love to hear your stories. Take a stroll down memory lane and share in the comments. What was your most beloved pair of platform shoes? Was there a moment when wearing them gave you that boost of confidence, or sparked a memory that still makes you smile today? If this look back put a skip in your step, don't forget to like the video and subscribe for future nostalgic journeys, and consider passing this along to friends who may have shared that wild, wonderful era with you. Keep your eyes peeled for more stories that celebrate the fashion, freedom, and unforgettable spirit of the 70s. After all, while we may no longer don those towering heels, the feeling of walking tall and daring to stand out never truly goes out of style. Here's to the shoes that helped us rise above, one step, one memory, and one unforgettable decade at a time.